Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside Scholastic, the new collaboration between NDTV and the Scholastic magazine. With Juan Rodriguez, I'm Johnny Soper, and we're happy to be bringing you the first issue of Scholastic in the 2018-2019 school year. Juan, this is something we're very, very excited about. You guys came to us about a month ago and asked if we could do this, and this is the first time in Notre Dame history that both NDTV and Scholastic have combined to make a program like this.
Yeah, it's really exciting because, in conversations with our respective advisors, Bob Franken for Scholastic, Lori McFadden for NDTV, we really described it as a combination of brain trust. There's a lot of great students that work at Scholastic and a number of tremendous students that work at NDTV, and all falling under the Notre Dame student media umbrella, if you will, an opportunity for a lot of great students to come together, really collaborate on a really exciting project.
Well, tell us about the magazine. I know it's been around for a long time, and there's a great history at Scholastic.
Yeah, it's a magazine that's been around since 1867, the longest continuously running collegiate publication in the country. So it's an exciting tradition to be a part of and to continue running as editor-in-chief for this coming school year. And with regard to Scholastic specifically, we publish about 8 to 9 issues per school year. We send out an issue to every freshman family during the summer. We also publish an annual football season review every January. So a lot of fun to put together and really recap the just finished football season. So a lot of great issues, a lot of great cover stories, and really exciting to see a lot of students writing and editing and designing and photographing stories that they're really passionate about.
Yeah, it's funny because every time you go back into like the 1800s and you go into the Notre Dame archives, a lot of the stuff you see came from the Scholastic magazine. So last year, correct me if I'm wrong, big anniversary, right?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 150th anniversary at the end of last school year. So really exciting to, like I said, continue that tradition. There's been a number of fantastic editors and designers and photographers that have come through Scholastic, through Notre Dame, and it's really interesting to hear their stories about how Scholastic has transformed from their time as editor to the current day. Goes back to when Scholastic's offices were in the basement of South Dining Hall, and just until recently, they continued in South Dining Hall and now moving into the luxurious and spacious Duncan Student Center, a great upgrade and update for a fantastic publication.
Yeah, we've enjoyed our new spaces, that's for sure. Well, tell us about this magazine that we're about to preview, and we're going to talk to some of the writers who authored the pieces that you'll see in the magazine, which, by the way, comes out Thursday, so you'll get a taste of that. But what can we expect?
So our cover story this issue is all about careers and majors and what majors here at Notre Dame are really setting students up for success. We talked to a number of individuals within the Center for Career Development, talked to a number of individuals that have graduated from Notre Dame with various majors, and we're looking to see what majors not only are setting students up for success, but maybe what majors have the highest rate of employment coming out of Notre Dame, what majors are giving its alumni the greatest or the highest starting salary coming out of Notre Dame. So a lot of great information coming out of this magazine, and really starting with the cover, a fantastic issue to get it started.
Well, let's go right into it then with the cover story. So why don't you introduce our guest?
Yes, so our cover story was written by 4 writers for this month. One of them, Daphne Salumi, a sophomore news editor for us. And Daphne really was able to help take the lead on a cover story that was an exciting one to put out for this September issue. And it's really been a great experience to get to know some of the people within the Center for Career Development and really learn the kind of resources that they provide for students.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was such a cool experience to work on the cover. This was my first time, and it really was a lot of in-depth research, talking to Ryan Willerton in the Center for Career Development and department heads of various colleges on campus. So really took a deep dive looking at the various offerings of academics here.
So Juan and I are both seniors, and of course the next step is constantly, it's not on our minds, it's certainly on our parents' minds. So this is an interesting story that I think a lot of students probably will take interest in, but how did you approach this from a student's perspective, thinking about maybe how you're going to approach the job search when you get to that point?
Yeah, we definitely wanted to convey the message that every major is valuable, especially when you're pursuing something that you're passionate about. However, there are definitely statistics out there compiled by the Center for Career Development that point to certain majors being more fruitful in terms of finding a job right out of school and having a higher median salary. So as a student, it was definitely a little scary, but interesting to find out which majors led to the most success for graduates.
Juan, is that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really an interesting experience to see, especially you and the rest of the staff that was able to take the lead and talk to people like Ryan Willerton and a number of others within the Center for Career Development. What were some of the insights that Ryan and some of the others shared with you as you were gathering information for the piece?
So touching back to something that I had mentioned before, many of the department heads and people in the Center for Career Development, such as Ryan Willerton, mentioned that you should always pursue what you're passionate about, because that will lead you to the most success when you love doing something and putting yourself out there for something you really, really care about. Simultaneously, I think something that was important also was not having a closed mind as to what defines success. So certain majors that people might not consider the most practical actually made our top list of majors, which I think was great to see.
Go into that a little bit. So talk about sort of what some of the things maybe students wouldn't expect to see, or some of the major students wouldn't expect to see at the top of that list.
Yeah, so one major that at least surprised me was sociology. It had a very high median salary reported, like straight out of graduation. And I feel as if a lot of times you're told that that's not practical to study in school. So I think it was sort of validating to see that up there on the list. And on the flip side, I think it was surprising to see a lot of the science majors sort of on the less successful side of things. However, it should also be noted that a lot of those majors end up going to secondary schooling.
Sure.
So the statistics are skewed a bit in that way, but it's always something you just have to keep in mind as you read these articles, because everyone has a different opinion and numbers always convey different stories.
Right. Tell us about Ryan Willerton. What is exactly is his position in the Center for Career Development?
So I actually was not the one who had direct contact with Ryan Willerton. It was one of our editorial staff members, Ellie. I actually don't know how to pronounce her last name. I apologize. But she passed on sort of the information that he gave, which was really invaluable to compiling our piece and the information that we shared with the students. But he, as I understand it, is one of the senior administrators in the Center for Career Development. So he really has a ton of this information right in his fingertips and is willing to help any student who has any questions.
Now, I remember one of the top majors, and I believe actually the #1 major that made Scholastic's list was computer science and computer engineering. So talk about the impact that maybe studying computer science, computer engineering would have on a student, especially how it would prepare somebody to go into the real world after graduation.
Yeah, so I would say that engineering definitely teaches a broad skill set, from quantitative analysis to being able to think on your feet. So I feel as if employers are not exactly looking for the degree per se, but really what skills the degree teaches you to be able to do. So anytime that we were analyzing sort of the success of these majors and talking to department heads, they always emphasized that it wasn't really about what they were learning. We can't teach you everything there is to know about the field, but we can teach you how to deal with everything there is in the field.
Now, I know one of the other interesting aspects to this cover story was Scholastic's investigation into some of the majors that were offering on the lower end starting salary and perhaps a higher rate of unemployment coming out of Notre Dame. So what were some of those majors, and what were some of the ones that surprised you in terms of some of the less successful majors, if you will, coming out of Notre Dame?
Yeah. So in terms of the toughest job markets, we had Italian, gender studies, and German, which I feel as if there's not a heavy demand for those except for in niche categories, so that wasn't so surprising. What was surprising, at least to me, was the lowest salaries reported, which were almost completely science majors. So neuroscience and behavior, biology, pre-professional studies, which again, I want to go back to saying that a lot of those majors pursue secondary education. So that sort of leads to a discrepancy in the data. And I actually got to interview Mary Galvin, who is Dean of the College of Science, and we had a really great discussion about how when a student comes to Notre Dame to major in science, it's really not about the money usually. It's about the impact on society. And you don't come here just so you can make money and be successful. You come here so you can exercise your compassion in a way that affects everyone for the greater good.
Yeah, that's really neat. What was the biggest takeaway for you personally from taking this dive into the majors and the Career Center and everything like that?
In terms of looking at the academics, I definitely came away with a greater understanding that all education is valuable. Not that I didn't think that before, but I definitely think in high school you're trained to believe that certain majors are the best majors and other ones will just lead to you sitting in a box in the street in New York City. And that's definitely not true at all. And in terms of reporting, I think it was really cool to see how all the moving pieces came together to make a complete product that we were so proud to share with the student body, because all 4 of the reporters on this piece worked super hard to make it cohesive and user-friendly. So I think that was one of the most rewarding parts of the experience.
Well, Daphne, thanks so much for coming on and talking about the cover story, which you can see, by the way, and read in the Scholastic magazine, which is out across campus as we speak. Daphne, thanks so much. We'll dive into more of the Scholastic right after this.
The mind. It processes every image, every voice, every word on the page. Yearning to understand, inspired by faith, it paints a picture of the world. When given the chance to examine things from different perspectives, to turn conventional thought upside down, the mind soars.
Welcome back to Inside Scholastic. Juan Rodriguez and Johnny Soper with you as we take you through this first issue of the Scholastic here in the 2018 school year. And we're pleased to be joined by Allison O'Neill, who's going to talk about some of the news items that are in the magazine. So, Allison, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, there were a lot of things going on around campus the past month as we started the school year, as there always is. But one of the big ones was that former President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind came to kick off the Carter Work Project here in St. Joseph County. They came on campus at the Purcell Pavilion. So that was a pretty big event.
Yeah, definitely. It was amazing. They came to campus. They came to Mishawaka in general for this whole 35th Carter Work Project. Basically, they go around the country and they build and refurbish homes. And they're interested in that because they've been working for Habitat for Humanity for over 30 years, and they're just super committed. A lot of people think that they even founded the organization, even though they didn't, but it's just a common misconception because they're so involved. And I actually had the honor of meeting President Carter and Rosalind.
How was that?
It was amazing. I got to ask them a question at a press conference, and you can actually read about it in the issue.
Awesome.
So when you were able to meet with President Carter and Rosalind Carter specifically, what kind of insights did they share just about their experience working with Habitat for Humanity? You mentioned how long an experience they've been with Habitat.
So they talked about not only their work in the U.S., but also around the world, in Korea, in pretty much every continent. And it's just amazing the amount of work that they've done. They talked about people, how they've been living in these deplorable conditions. They talked about this one family who had been living in a septic tank or something horrible like that. And it's just about how Habitat for Humanity goes around and helps to make these people's lives better by providing housing. They really focused on how housing is the foundation of people's lives, and without it, it's hard to succeed in other facets of life, like school, work, and they just really underline the importance of Habitat.
What an example that former president and his wife are setting. They, from what I understand, have lived just an incredibly humble life since he's left the office. He still lives in a pretty humble home of his own. Mm-hmm. I think I read somewhere that it's worth maybe $200,000.
Yeah,
he didn't
I heard
really
he
live a
still shops
life
at the
of
dollar
luxury.
store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he and his wife have just been shining examples of giving back to others, especially a guy who, when you leave the office, you can really do anything you want. You have access to any person in the world, any place in the world, and he's just kept his humble roots as a peanut farmer and helped out as much as he can.
Yeah, no, he really gave off this vibe of being very down to earth too. I mean, I was there with a bunch of journalists from professional organizations, and he answered my question just like I was one of them, even though I'm only a college reporter. And he shook my hand afterwards and said it was a good question. It was just such a cool experience because he gave off the impression of just being such a normal guy, even though he's a former president.
And he really was able to emphasize, with the Carter Work Project coming to Mishawaka and St. Joe County, the kind of impact that this kind of project can have, not only currently, but in the long term, the kind of lasting effects that the Carter Work Project can leave on an area like Mishawaka and St. Joe County.
Exactly, and one of the things that they also did at the press conference, not only the Carters, but the executives of Habitat themselves, talked about how the unique business model of Habitat kind of facilitates this sort of like long-term lasting impact. Like, one of the things that the organization is known for is something called sweat equity, and that entails basically like Habitat is not a charity, and that's something President Carter made very clear. He said that one of the things they do is you pay back the people who built your house by not only helping build your own home yourself, but also contributing in hours of sweat equity, meaning you work for the organization in some capacity, whether that means in an office or on a work site, and you basically pay it forward for yourselves and for other people.
That's so cool. I just think that, and Jimmy Carter is 94?
Yeah, 94. I think Rosalind's 91.
Yeah, I mean.
And they're still out here doing all this.
Unbelievable. And that was a hot week, by the way, when they were out here. I mean,
yeah.
it was hot and humid, and I saw the pictures, and he was out there in his jeans and long-sleeve shirt.
Taking questions from people all week. He's such a trooper.
Yeah, and it's not like he just showed up for the picture and smiled and waved and kissed some babies and left. I mean, he was really out there doing work.
Yeah, they believe in their mission. They really do.
And there were some special guests as well that have been inspired by his generosity and his humility. So tell us about that.
Oh, like Garth Brooks?
Yes.
Yeah, he's been around. We have an article on him, too, in the issue. So he was at the work site. I caught a glimpse of him for a second. And Trisha Yearwood is here, too. And also
Garth's wife.
At the inaugural ceremony in Purcell, they had a bunch of local celebrities. They had Father Jenkins, of course. They had Pete Buttigieg, and just a ton of interesting people. Who was the name of that guy?
David
Letterman.
Yeah.
Oh, that
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy, yeah. Nobody expected him to be here, but he just showed up.
Actually, it was funny at the opening ceremony. I was there, and President Carter walks out, and everyone's giving him a standing ovation, and they had a camera on him, and they were showing him on the Jumbotron, and he goes to take a seat, which he sat in the third row. He starts walking up the steps, and I'm thinking, where the heck is he going, right? And he sits down in the third row, and everyone's still applauding for him. And who's standing in front of him in the row in front? David Letterman. And everyone's going, what the heck? I mean, I remember I turned to my friend and I said, is that really David Letterman? What is he doing in South Bend?
Yeah,
I know I had the same reaction. It was crazy to see Letterman here, but at the same time realizing the impact that Jimmy Carter and so many people have had on Habitat for Humanity and the Carter Work Project. And just it speaks to the level of admiration that a lot of these individuals have.
Yeah, and it really struck me, too, how David Letterman kind of just showed up. And, everybody knows he's a major celebrity, but he even said in his speech, he didn't want to attract too much attention to himself. Right. He cared more about the cause. I really admired that. That was kind of the spirit of the whole week, I noticed.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you can read more about the Carter Work Project and Jimmy Carter's visit to South Bend in the Scholastic magazine, which is all across campus. Pick it up and give a look at that article. We'll be right back with more of Inside Scholastic.
The world needs a university that educates men and women who accept their responsibility to serve others. We will strive to build a community where education, inquiry, and faith combine to respond to the demands of justice. This is our goal. Let no one ever say that we dreamed too small.
Welcome back to Inside Scholastic, previewing the first issue of the Scholastic magazine across campus. You can pick it up today with Juan Jose Rodriguez. I'm Johnny Soper, and happy to be joined by Emma Ferdinandi, who's going to talk a little bit more about the big concert coming up on October 20th. Garth Brooks is coming to South Bend for a one-time only event that everyone's pretty excited about. So tell us, first of all, about the story and how you did your reporting. Did you actually get to talk with Garth?
Yes, I did, actually. It was a very unique experience. It was my first press conference ever.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Surrounded, it was in the stadium.
Okay.
So got to go on the field, actually, and take some pictures of him there, which you'll get to see in the magazine. And then we just, he talked to us, and it was very conversational. And this man, he's won Entertainer of the Year for the CMA Awards 6 times, so he really knows what he's doing.
That's pretty good.
Right, right. So he's very confident, very humble, down to earth. He had just come from working with the Carters, which you just heard about with Habitat for Humanity. So he was dressed in steel-toed boots. He's got like an orange T-shirt on, his dirty, muddy jeans. So he was just really humble, really down to earth, and very cool to talk to.
And that concert, so it'll be the first ever standalone concert, so the only concert that's not attached to a football game or any sort of event here inside Notre Dame Stadium. And Garth was pretty excited about that. He was definitely feeling the enthusiasm that Notre Dame brings to the table.
Definitely. He has been a fan of Notre Dame for a very long time. He actually had a poster of Joe Montana in his college dorm room, among other things. And so he's definitely really excited about that. And he will be playing on a bye weekend in the middle of football season. So he's definitely getting the excitement of the crowd of the football game into his concert, alongside his excitement just because he is such a country legend. So he's definitely very excited to be part of Notre Dame history, and Notre Dame's very excited that he's part of the history.
In your opinion, how big of a get was this for Notre Dame to kick off their concert series, which we assume probably will happen with regularity now that the stadium is really equipped for that since Campus Crossroads. But starting off with Garth, I mean, that's pretty ginormous.
Right. It was definitely, they said they didn't think of anybody else. He was their number one go-to guy. And it's just because of a combination of things. He has great music. Yes, that's definitely necessary for a music concert.
Right.
But he just really embodies what Notre Dame's all about. He embodies community, family, and he's just really excited to kind of share that with us. And he also, he's really excited, and you'll read in my article that he's really excited that the stadium is just built for concerts. And he said Notre Dame's a little slow on the pickup of that. Like, we definitely probably should have had concerts a little earlier than this. But there's no second tier or second bowl, so it's all front row feel. And he's going to be playing in the round, so there's just going to be so much front row. And with the thing he does is every ticket is the same price, so it's really important to him to make the concert intimate and make everybody having a blast. And so he's really excited to be able to do that here.
Now, there is one exception that I believe he mentioned with regards to tickets being the same price, and he did say he'd be doing a little extra something for students in order to draw students in and increase the student attendance at the concert.
Right. Students definitely, they get discounted tickets, so they're $50, and we actually were able to buy them earlier as well. And so that was just awesome, as well as it being right on campus for us. Additionally, there is merchandise geared towards Notre Dame and Garth, and so that's really exciting for us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great show. It's funny, judging from the reaction from a lot of people who I've talked to, a lot of students, there are more than I thought who really didn't even know who Garth was. And of course, I'm a huge Garth fan. I was like, Garth Brooks is a legend. How do you not know who Garth Brooks is? But I think the concert's going to be a huge event, not just for Notre Dame and South Bend and the region, but I mean, I know people who are literally flying to South Bend just to come to this concert. I think it's going to be a pretty big deal. And
it definitely will be. They just ended a long, I think it was 2-year tour where they smashed records set by people like Michael Jackson and the Rolling Stones. So they have a huge following, and they're definitely going to be people showing up for the concert.
Awesome. I can't wait. Again, that's October 20th is the Garth Brooks concert. It's a Ticketmaster event, so if students are still looking for tickets, you can get those on Ticketmaster. Emma, thanks so much for talking with us about Garth. Yeah, looking forward to the concert. And we'll be back with more previewing the Scholastic magazine, the first issue of 2018 here on Inside Scholastic.
Scholastic Magazine, the university's most trusted news source and the longest-running collegiate publication in the United States. News, campus culture, sports, and humor, it all comes together once a month in each issue of Scholastic. So pick one up at a shelf near you and visit us online at scholastic.nd.edu. scholastic.nd.edu.
Welcome back to Inside Scholastic as we preview the first issue of 2018 of the Scholastic magazine with Juan Jose Rodriguez, the editor-in-chief of Scholastic. I'm Johnny Soper, station manager of NDTV, bringing you this first-time collaboration, which we're going to continue all year long, giving you an inside glimpse at the Scholastic's issue. And this month, September, we're talking football with David Korzanowski. Notre Dame's 2-0, so off to a good start, and that was a pretty big win over Michigan.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Johnny. Thanks for having me on. It's been great. I mean, sports is one of the best sections in Scholastic. I'm not biased at all. I wasn't sports editor 2 years ago, but we have a football issue that comes out at the end of every season, but we figured that with the Michigan game, it was so big, it deserved 2 pages of this issue. So we had a freshman, Eric McLaughlin, on it, and he did a really good job recapping the huge home opener for Notre Dame, 24-17 over the Wolverines. And we also got to talking about some of the new players, Jafar Armstrong, and then some of the returners on that defense, and also senior quarterback Brandon Wimbush. So it was a great way to start the season for the Irish football team.
And really, that win against Michigan, not only did it start off the season well, but it really set the tone, set the momentum for how the Irish are looking forward to the rest of 2018.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we talked about it before the game, but either way, it was going to really set the tone for the rest of the season. And a huge win by 1 touchdown against a rival. I mean, that's a great way to start the season if you're Notre Dame. And that was something that Chris Fink talked about in his post-game interview with Fighting Irish Media's Tony Simeone. We had some quotes in there, and he said, we're just trying to use this as sort of a jumping-off point for the rest of the 2018 season. And 2-0, so they've stuck to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just going to say, so they start off with a huge win over Michigan and then kind of a clunker against Ball State.
Yeah.
I mean, they won the game, but players said after it kind of felt like a loss, and certainly in the stadium, it didn't feel like it was. I mean, it was kind of dead in there. Second half, it was.
I agree with you, and that's one reason why we didn't talk about the Ball State game in the in this issue
Funny
of
how that
Scholastic.
works. Are
Yeah,
you the
exactly.
managing editor or
No,
something?
nothing like that. But no, we figured it was such an important game for Notre Dame, Michigan that we really wanted to focus on that. I mean, Ball State, it's kind of a footnote at this point after such a huge win week 1.
An Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
We are the University of Notre Dame.
Well, Juan Jose, this is the end of our first episode, our first collaboration. I think it's going to be a great partnership. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year.
Yeah, to quote a movie that we watched in our planning meetings to start the year, Johnny, I think this could be the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yes.
Between
Casablanca.
NDTV and Scholastic.
Yeah.
So really excited to have this opportunity to promote Scholastic here on a platform like NDTV. Just to remind students, check us out online, scholastic.nd.edu. Check us out in the Duncan Student Center, La Fortune, many of the academic buildings around campus, as well as the dining halls. So we hope you enjoy the issue, and we look forward to having you read not only this one, but the many issues to come.
All right, pick it up and read it for all of us at Scholastic, including editor-in-chief Juan Jose Rodriguez, and at NDTV, including myself, station manager Johnny Soper, and our entire crew. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.